Hit Season 2.
Welcome back to SPL, everybody. We're about to jump into our second match of the night. It's going to be MVP Chicken Maru up against SK Telecom T1.
Now this match is, when you look at the lineups, it's obviously much more important for SKT overall. I think MVP is actually out already, but SKT, if they win this with good indicator, could potentially make it. The opening match is GuMiho versus Classic. Now I think this is the most important game in the entire series. If GuMiho loses it, we'll likely just simply see a sweep, okay, from SKT. Could still happen after he takes the win, but this is one of the hardest lineups for MVP that they've ever, like, they brought players, like 2 of them, Forte and Departure, that simply put, in my opinion, should not be in this roster today. But obviously, if they've already been eliminated, maybe it's an idea to give them a little bit more exposure. But for SKT, if they pick up that Classic win, they might be able to get the clean sweep, and that would give them 3 more indicator points, which is really important. So for SKT, they brought their A game because they want a 3-0 today. They want those 3 points. They need them desperately here to make sure that they can actually get into that top 4.
Yeah, and I think they've got a good shot at it. I am actually heavily favoring GuMiho in this first matchup. He's been looking quite fantastic, especially in TVP. You know, you're talking about that build, the 1-1-1. He's really got that down pat. We'll see if Classic has an answer, if GuMiho wants to mix that up. That's going to be an overgrowth for game number 1.
Yeah, but we've already seen Bravo use this build to great effect on this map, and other Terran players as well. This is their strong build right now. And I lost my monitor again. This has to stop happening.
We may or may not be
we actually
camera.
are on camera, I'm pretty sure, like almost 100%,
well,
but I'm sure people are going to figure out very quickly that this is, in fact, busted right now.
Yeah, well, why don't you go ahead and send them a text, even though we are on camera. It's all good. We got to get our monitor fixed so we can make sure we're getting into the games. I believe we are taking a look at the matchups now. So it's going to be GuMiho versus Classic, and then Forte versus Dream, Ryung versus Innovation, and then Departure versus Dark. Today is just mirror match Saturday, man. We got 2 TVTs today and a potential ZVZ. We are going to start off with the TVP, though.
Yep, and the TVP, I think, might be the best match of the second one. I mean, I think it definitely should be. Now, GuMiho has shown us this build a lot on Frozen Temple specifically, but I still think he's going to do it on Overgrowth. It's very powerful right now. It's very meta, and it's a build that is very difficult to stop. We saw yesterday Stats was able to stop Cure's version of it with Blink, and I think people are really starting to figure this build out right now. So if they actually are able to, you know, if he's able to use it, if he decides to use it, sorry, I'm a bit so flustered about this monitor thing. If he is able to pull it off, then I think he can take a good win here. If he tries to play Classic in a straight-up game, then that's like, you really want to play Classic in a straight game? And this is an SKT Protoss, one who is also a champion.
No, but GuMiho is also a fantastic macro Terran as well. I mean, can he stand up to Classic? I think he can. I think it would be a very even game at this point. And it's kind of interesting to say for a player who's on MVP, but he's basically been the only person that comes out day to day and has a positive record for MVP and is just a great player. He does well for himself in individual leagues as well.
The thing is, like, GuMiho, if he had this level of performance earlier on in the season, he'd probably be like top 6 in the winners ranking because he's just so consistent.
He's
like right
close,
now,
man. He's very close.
Right now, he's just taken wins so consistently that it's scary, and it's a crazy world we live in where you can say that GuMiho is favored versus Classic. Like, we've gone that far, he's gone this deep, and he keeps playing on these maps that are good for TVP. He keeps hitting Protosses. He's been, like, Choya is putting him always right where he needs to be on every map correctly, consistently, and he's just delivering. So this is the win that MVP expects to get and needs to get. The rest of the other 3 are going to be very difficult, if not impossible, to secure.
Oh, yeah.
But this is step 1. This is like, if you want to build a house, you got to at least buy bricks, okay?
Where's
like
the foundation?
Yeah.
You know, the GuMiho win. They send him out here first for a reason. I mean, the map makes sense too. But out of the other 3 matchups, I guess Ryung is the other player that they could look towards as like maybe he can sneak out a win. But then again, he's playing Innovation, so
yeah, that's the other matchup that could go their way. I think that's the one they're really looking at. Ryung's TVT is incredible, but he has had a few flubs recently, and Innovation is looking finally back, I think, to his full and final form, especially after their match last week.
Yeah, I suppose that Departure can try to take like a build order win. Maybe go like a very aggressive build in ZVZ. They are on New Gettysburg, so it's a 2-player map. Curious was able to actually take a ZVZ win there, so maybe he could, take a look at some of those games and try to figure out a way to defeat Dark here. But Dark, I mean, he's the reigning SSL champion. He's still the best Zerg in the world right now. Rogue was like trying to challenge for that title as he takes out Zest twice, but then he lost to Hero, I believe it was, the other day when CJ faced Jin Air. And
that's right.
It's pretty crazy, man. Dark, I feel like he's heavily favored in that one, but anything could happen in that ZVZ.
Absolutely. It is a ZVZ, and it's like the matchup where you see a lot of timing attacks by Dark, and this could be potentially countered by Departure because he's actually shown so many of these specific timing attacks, different variations. You can see a lot of Su's influence in his play. And I think Dark is by far much better than Su. We could talk about this. We talked about this in the early part of the broadcast today. A lot of people reflect that the current state of the game is not balanced, and Zergs are losing because of the balance, and the patches came out. I think the patch is somewhat warranted, right? But I think that Zerg players are just not performing. They're not innovating. When we haven't seen a new Zerg build, we aren't seeing new Zerg concepts except Rogue doing like a Swarmos player. Rogue's like the only one who's really like changing the matchups.
Yeah.
Whereas we're seeing Pros players do new builds. Hero showed us some today. GuMiho, Bravo showing us the new Cyclone type pushes. Other races are innovating matchups where they're struggling, but Zergs seem to be stagnating right now. Maybe it's a lack of motivation. Maybe it's a frustration because maybe there were some balance issues here. But it's like...
But no excuses anymore, right? I mean, the patch is out.
And nothing really changed since when Dark won Star League, except that all the other races kind of learned the game better, and Zerg just couldn't deal with what they were bringing anymore. Whether it was because of balance or because the Zerg players we have at the top in Korea were struggling and failing, we'll never know. But it's a very valid discussion point, and I think something that nobody really talks about. Everyone just kind of tries to blame balance as to why there's only 2 Zergs in Star League. The only 2 Zergs who were seeded from last season, 0 Zergs advanced from Challenger. Is that because of balance? It's just an interesting topic to discuss. But we are going to look at this TVP now, as Classic is 6-4 in the head-to-head to GuMiho.
Yeah, pretty even there, and GuMiho actually has a much better record overall this season than Classic does. Let's take a look at wow, it's 7-0 for GuMiho. I did not expect that.
Neither did I, man. It's kind of crazy. We're in this world now where GuMiho is favored over Classic. We all knew this was coming, and I guarantee you, GuMiho will not be on MVP next season. He's going somewhere else.
He's going to be moving on up, perhaps. Guys, let's go to GuMiho versus Classic on Overgrowth. Down here in the bottom left, in the teal for MVP, it's GuMiho.
His opponent to the top right in orange, it is Classic from SK Telecom T1. By far the favored team, but he has the hardest matchup. GuMiho on a tear, on a winning streak. And I'm excited. You know what? Just because I'm selfish and I want what I want, I hope that GuMiho does actually go for the Cyclone push, and I want to see Classic's response. Does he do what Stats did and try to go for Blink? Does he try to avoid the push altogether with slowing it down with reinforcements? Does he just try to overwhelm it with pylon overcharges? It's selfish of me to want this, but I want it.
Well, it'll be interesting to see if he does decide to go for that eventually. And I mean, we are going to get into this game. That sign that we actually had on camera was about the potential outcomes of the different matchups here. So, like, if MVP wins, I believe they take their 3rd win, and they're hoping for like the Freaks to win or something like that. or maybe the Freaks to lose because the Freaks are above them right now. But the picture is going to become a lot more clearer towards the end of today and tomorrow.
Yeah, tomorrow we'll be able to tell you guys like everything that's going to happen. We're going to have like clipboards and charts and graphs.
You get the whiteboard up here. Yeah. Maybe it'll work better for us than some other casters that have attempted that before. But we'll see. We'll definitely have the potential outcomes for you guys tomorrow.
Yeah, tomorrow we're going to break
someone's also going to figure that out on Team Liquid for sure. Like someone's going to, spread that info.
I don't like to get too in depth on the. Usually it's Monday, but now we're doing this on Saturday, Sunday. I don't like to get too in depth on the day before the last day because you're talking about way too many ifs and way too many maybes. And once you cut that in half, tomorrow we will have 3 matches, which is going to be the first time that's ever happened. So just some things to keep in mind and consider as we go forward. All right, Hellion first here for GuMiho. Doesn't necessarily mean he's not doing it. He might be doing a variation. Starport's going to come up here in a second. Could just be the old school Widowmine drop with the Hellion to kind of deny some scouting, come up and harass at the front. Let's see what comes out after this Hellion. He could just drop the tech lab. I didn't finish that sentence. Let's see. We're watching. Everybody's waiting. The world is waiting. GuMiho.
All eyes on GuMiho. Another Hellion.
Okay, so it's going to be the Marine Hellion drop variation, it looks like. Oh, I wanted to see the other build. We could still see a later variation, obviously, but was hoping for it. My hopes shattered.
Classic kind of go for a Stargate here. Seeing a little bit more of this in the matchup. Get that Oracle out, do a bit of harass damage there, and then eventually transition into the Robotics and Twilight, which has become kind of the golden standard of PvT, where you get all those techs out decently early there after your expansion.
I'm looking into like what is going to come next after the Oracle, because versus that type of Cyclone pressure, you would expect to see the Void Ray again, but he doesn't know yet what he's up against. So I'm curious if he's going to just leave this here for a second and not build anything, or if he's just going to go straight Phoenix. Okay, well, he's going to go straight Phoenix. He's also keeping his Oracle back at home, I suppose, for Widowmine detection, as he's starting to figure out, okay, you would have hit me with something by now. And he can even use this Oracle to help deter the Hellions, to be totally honest.
Yeah, I mean, Oracles are just a fantastic defensive unit as well. We always talk about them in the harass sense. But here we go. Hellions coming in an instant overcharge, but there's only one pylon. It's on the left side.
And he's targeting very well. Actually eliminates 5 probes already. He's going to get more here, I think. Oh, just barely misses the last attack. But still, Marines in the main base here. The Phoenix is too late. He is getting that Void Ray. With all these Adepts here, though, if he pulls his probes correctly, shouldn't lose too much, but already 2 more killed, and a pickup boost on cooldown. Now he's just going to go ahead and drop out.
So a decent defense there from Classic. He kills the 3 Hellions, doesn't get anything else, but he does lose 7 probes, which definitely hurts. But he's held on. He hasn't taken too much damage here. The Oracle, let's see how many kills this guy has got. He's only got 1, but definitely helped out a lot in the defense of both of these attacks here. And he's actually still keeping it at home. He's playing just very, very defensive Protoss style that we haven't really seen. He's now adding 2 Void Rays, which are going to be good against any kind of Liberator follow-up, of course, but we'll see if he continues to build those. He's actually chrono boosting them out very fast.
I think the chrono also shows, unless I'm mistaken here, that he really just wants to have them for the Liberator defense. He wants to have them split. The Phoenix is already looking for said Liberators, and also potentially Medivacs for the follow-up. And one of the most powerful things about Liberators in this matchup and in other matchups as well is that they punish move-outs, because you have to have a lot to deal with the Liberator. You have to have your pylons all in position and all the right overcharges, or you have to have a ton of Stalkers. And if you move out across the map, you never have enough. The Void Rays also can kill Medivacs if the Medivacs are stuck over dead airspace. He is actually pushing out with them, though. He's not keeping them at home.
This is weird. He's also added 2 gates, so he's going to do this on 5 gateways. With the Warp Prism. The Warp Prism is a little bit late, and there are 2 drops out of the map. GuMiho going to rely on, in fact, bunkers back at home to defend.
I think Classic should try to punish this right now before it's too late. This Nexus needs to be canceled as well. There's the quick cancel there. SCB scouts the push. He knows there's no Warp Prism with this. He's actually going to push for this. Looks like he's going to split his units. A bad rally there, a bad pathing. He's going to send them home. I thought he was really going to commit to the push instead. Here comes the Warp Prism, but the bunkers will be done. Stim is long done. Combat Shield's on the way, but +1 is about to be done as well. It's going to be a very tough push to actually make work. I think Classic needs to abandon this at this point. He's never going to break these bunkers.
He's committed to double Void Rays, and he definitely does want to put on some damage with the sentries here. He can force field off any repairing SCVs, but at the same time, it almost looks like some kind of soft contain because he's expanding behind this.
Yeah, I think you're right on the money with that.
I mean, I don't know. It's just it's a very odd kind of the way that this came into form. And now look at this. GuMiho's got 2 medevacs full. And this is +1 Marines with Stim and 2 medevacs. So
Combat Shield's about to finish as well. This is something that Classic is not respecting. No, he's definitely made a mistake here. He's going to lose another Adept. Great start set by GuMiho. Should get another Stalker, and then I think he should just let this one go and combat or attack the Nexus. He's going to get the Combat Shields, kills the Stalker anyways, and he's like, oh, I guess I'll let the Nexus go. This is what I was afraid of. If Classic stays too long, GuMiho just leaves his base and goes to kill him. He's not going to make a 3rd CC. Look at all the barracks he's powered up. He's going to have Vikings as well to help zone out these Void Rays and even kill, Warp Prisms, anything that's helping to try and reinforce this. The Colossus, the first one that comes out, will also have to contend with the Vikings. This is probably a dead 3rd base. He needs better than perfect force fields to hold this.
And he does have a lot of energy on those 4 sentries. He can actually just make a wall over here, but he needs to get him down.
Okay, here we go.
There's no force fields. He's not force fielding anything.
He wasn't even looking. And those are pretty bad force fields. They do wall off the army, but it was a lot of overlap there. Probably could have accomplished that with much less.
And now he's got 3 Vikings in the sky. He's just going to focus down this one pylon. This Terran army is massive right now. There's no way for the Classic to fight this here.
All right, well, I mean, this is the last stand for Classic. Void Ray goes down. The Colossus is not ready. Even if it were, it would just be targeted. Here comes the rest of the army, and GuMiho is going to take game number 1. That is it. He's typing it out.
Whoa. Really one-sided. GG. GuMiho smashing Classic in that game and proving to everyone why he deserved 7 votes from the casters here.
I tell you what, man, I don't think I've ever seen a player be this much above the rest of his team, far and above, like miles and miles ahead of everyone else on his team. Just so consistent, smashing legends and champions.
And he keeps getting better and better. You know, I feel like he was pretty good at the beginning of the year, for sure, as he always has been. But he's been ramping up recently. And when I say recently, I mean like, the last 3-4 months. He's really just been putting in the efforts and
it shows, man.
Making it work for himself. He really wants to succeed here in StarCraft.
GuMiho was in the beginning of Wings of Liberty like a top 8 Code S player, and one of the anchors for Epic's Open, as well as FOU. And in Heart of the Swarm, he was really excited about the medevac boost. Everyone's thinking he's one of the best dropping Terrans in the world. He's going to be the king. He might even be like the new MVP. People were saying that. People were hyped. It didn't happen. He beat a few champions last season of Pro League, the season before as well. Like, he beat Zest with a booth ball on his head. Now he's just beating people consistently. It doesn't matter who he faces. He keeps hitting Protosses, which is partially also the decision of Choya to put him on these maps correctly to play the best matchup for him. But as much as I love MVP as a team, they're a team that's been around since, I came to Korea. They won the GSTL right, like the day I landed in Korea, they won that GSTL. And this team, or actually they play against Slayers. I'm trying to remember exactly which day I landed now. I'm like, I'm getting a bit foggy. Day. But anyway, they did win GSTL. I'm not sure if it was the exact day I landed. Might have been the one that Slayers won. Anyway, they won GSTLs before. They're a long-standing team. They've been around a long time. But GuMiho, he was on CJ. I would like to see him go back. I think he belongs on another team right now. Yeah. He's just far and above what MVP can offer for him, man.
Imagine him on CJ, like Heroes ramping it up, Bill's beginning to take some wins, GuMiho, add him in there, and like MC comes together, right? That would be pretty sick.
Yeah, I mean,
that would be a really strong team, actually.
It would be a scary lineup. I was so hyped for Samsung last season, like they lost Roro, and I was like, oh, God,
Yeah.
And Samsung's never been able to bounce back. MVP hasn't been able to bounce back in a long time. They did get to one round finals, of course, like Bilby, the all-kill and stuff versus SKT. They've had their moments. But I got to say, like, GuMiho looks like he is a class that belongs on a better team, like CJ, for example. Perhaps even like KT, to be totally honest. When you look at
I think
KT's roster, like, I mean, this is all going into 2017 because we're at the end of round 3. But I'm just saying, like, most improved player this year, I think, and he belongs on a solid.